Welcome to I Drink Your Podcast, where we drink and talk about movies from 2007.
Yippee-ki-yay, motherfucker!
I don't remember seeing this movie.
What's your power? You don't got the power.
Keeps away the narwhals.
The only way to defeat a waffle is by making it a pancake.
This is one doodle that can't be undid, home skillet.
Now back to that ass.
Were you masturbating?
I drink your podcast. I drink it up.
Welcome back to another episode of I Drink Your Podcast. Today we are watching the 2007 remake of Hairspray. And before we get started, let's talk about some housekeeping. If you guys could go ahead and share us with your friends, share us on social media, that helps us grow, and we appreciate that so much. And if you guys could rate, subscribe, and review us on whatever platform you're on, that also helps us grow, and we appreciate your support so much. But just share us around, because we need to grow, baby. But having said that, I Drink Your Podcast, roll call.
I'm Ben. Someone's got to go after me.
I'm Emily.
Yeah, Matt normally says Emily second.
What do you mean? Roll call means
It's a
you
roll
go
call.
in
You call
order.
yourself.
I'm not Corny Collins that I come back and reintroduce you one by one.
No, I'm just saying I thought Emily would go next because normally Matt says Emily after Ben. Let's try it again. One more time. We got this.
Okay. I Drink Your Podcast, roll call.
I'm Ben.
And Emily.
I'm Wes.
And I'm Liebo.
Yeah.
So yeah, wow. So let's talk about what are we drinking today. I'm going to go ahead and tell you guys what's in my glass first, because I got some grenadine, courtesy of our last guest, told me to get grenadine. Corbin, I have a Kettle One vodka, grapefruit juice, and grenadine cocktail. It has nothing to do with the show, but I'm getting drunk.
Oh, that fancy top shelf grenadine, huh? Like $3.99 a bottle?
I did hear him say that this is the best drink he's ever made for this show before. So thank you, Corbin.
It has 3 things in it. Good job.
Wes, what do you got?
I'm drinking an old fashioned because I really like them. And then like halfway through mixing it, I was like, hey, this movie's kind of old fashioned.
Yeah, it's in the 60s.
Yeah. Plus an orange
And what do
peel.
you have?
I have a cocktail that's called the Hairspray, and it's just gin and Sierra
Just
Mist.
gin.
Just gin.
Okay. Well, I went with a pink squirrel because it was very popular in the 60s. And so it's like ice cream and some cream de cacao, cacao. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
I did make this, but Corbin made the recipe. So, but I made it.
You made it.
Myself.
Nice.
I made it. It's
Yeah,
pink.
Liebo.
In honor of Velma Von Tussle, the original Karen and total racist, I made her black and tan cocktail, but I have never heard of a black and tan cocktail, so I went with the Iron Butterfly. It's when you take a white Russian but make it more alcoholic with Kahlua, vodka, and Bailey's, but I changed Kahlua out for cream de cocoa to go more with the theme and anti-Velma.
Oh, that's how you say
A
it.
black and tan's not a thing?
It is, but it's usually Bass beer and Guinness, and that's not really a cocktail, though. It's just a drink, so I had to change it up a little.
Oh, okay.
I think you created it. I mean, or at least you took an existing drink and then you renamed it for the, so.
You know, I do me.
Okay. Beautiful.
A reimagining.
Yeah, a reimagine. The black and tan cocktail. Okay, so this week, Liebo is our guest, and let's get to know him a little bit before we dive into the movie. So, Liebo, what were you up to in 2007?
Okay, 2007. I was 27 or 28 years old. So much older than you guys. I was finishing grad school and student teaching and then going into my first year of teaching. And Emily, you must have been like freshman in college or something.
No.
Not even close.
Your timeline is way off.
Almost high school.
Oh, you're just a baby.
Heck yeah.
I taught at a charter school in South Minneapolis. I lived over on 33rd in Chicago. That charter school, oddly enough, just burnt down in the recent riots. So there's a fact. I on 33rd in Chicago, it was great. I had this little corner store that I could buy like my Red Bulls or my knockoff shoes. You know, I had to get my Hard Knock Life on.
What kind of knockoff shoes were they?
Jordan's series 1 through 6 hadn't impressed the kids. I thought that back then that's how you impressed them.
Nice.
Did you do anything else in 2007 other than buy knockoff shoes?
I decided to date my roommate who I met off of Craigslist. And you know what they say about stooping where you eat?
Oh, hell.
Hey.
Wowza.
Yow. Okay.
Our former students do listen to this.
They can learn a thing or two.
So that is going to be super funny.
Oh my gosh. All right. So Liebo, what are some of your favorite movies? Like, do you have a favorite genre, style? What are you thinking?
Well, not to sound cliche, but I really am eclectic when it comes to movies. I'm not a big fan of those slasher movies that they jump out at you. I think I got scarred when the guy ripped off his face in Poltergeist when I was 3. But other than that, I love all sorts of styles. I like noir, silent movies, comedies, dramas, romance. I'd say I really like the kind of creative ones like Eternal Sunshine for the Spotless Mind or Run, Lola, Run. Those are some of my favorites. And of course, I love all the movies of 2007. What a great year of movies.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, that's kind of the reason we're here.
The premise
I
of the
think we
show.
should maybe do a podcast about that.
Maybe you should invite me on more of these episodes, huh?
Stroke your ego.
We'll see how you do.
For the premise of the show a little bit. Nice.
I mean, I'm going to say 2007, I'm not super impressed yet, but we're only,
wow.
a few episodes deep.
Well, we've really only stuck to the ones that have made a lot of money at this point. I think once we start getting into the smaller movies, we're going to find some real gems.
And I think we did get some of that with Sunshine. Anyway.
Yeah, agreed.
Now, let's not get too far removed, but I need to know, has Emily seen Run, Lola, Run? And
I've seen Eternal Sunshine. Oh my God, I'm drunk already.
Who broke
Eternal
Emily?
Spotless of the Sunshine Mind.
Yes, that one.
Tell me you've seen great things like Memento.
I just watched that.
that. Yeah, add it to the list, Emily. Run, Lola, Run. It's really good.
I'm on it.
What about Hairspray made you excited to do the podcast? What kind of got you going about the movie?
So when asked to join for Hairspray, I was really excited because it's actually the first musical that Ben and I directed together at our school. I've directed a bunch of musicals, and I think Hairspray was one of the better adaptations of a musical from a movie. They do a really tough job of actually doing that well. Though Ben and I saw a great rendition of Beetlejuice last summer, so they can pull it off sometimes. I truly think Hairspray was great because John Waters was connected to it. And I'm a huge John Waters fan. I loved all the way back to Pink Flamingo and his total avant-garde style and how he pushes the limits. And can I just mention his cameo in Hairspray as the Flasher is the most fitting cameo ever done by a director because John Waters is a total Flasher. So suck it, Stan Lee.
Right. Yeah.
Is John Waters still alive?
I don't think
Because you just insulted Stan Lee, who can't defend himself anymore.
John Waters is still alive.
I mean, Stan Lee is probably still active where he is because it's probably very hot.
I always confused John Waters with Vincent Price.
That's understandable because they both have similar styles.
Yeah, they look very similar.
I would like to see John Waters without his mustache.
Yeah, doesn't he just look like Moby or just a pedophile?
What does that look like?
Go to a mirror, Matt.
Okay. All right. So you said this is the first production you and Ben did together, implying more?
Yeah, Ben and
What are
I
they?
pretty much built a theater program at our school, which was really cool. But we did multiple musicals, either directing and tech directing, co-directing, or Ben directed some, and I just came in occasionally to help out a little bit. But yeah, a really good theater program. We just actually finished Urinetown as our final production together, and it was exceptionally good.
Dang. Do you have any?
I even got to be in one.
Yeah, you get those high school actors who just drop out at the last second. But luckily, we have Ben, the superstar, who goes on stage and steals the spotlight at any time.
Which one were you in, Ben?
We directed Annie. And in between opening night and the second night of the show, our Daddy Warbucks dropped off the face of the earth and we couldn't find him. So I stepped in last minute and did Daddy Warbucks for our final 2 performances.
And he actually learned the line. So the actual show was 30 minutes shorter than the ones before where they had to improvise. But I guess that's the way the cookie crumbles. And there's this one time that the girl who played Annie was an hour late for call. And so I thought I had to play Annie to, Ben's Daddy Warbucks, which would have been great. But No. So I actually was lying on the floor of the vice principal's office, just screaming, fuck.
Yeah.
So that was fun.
I think I really missed out on this legendary times prior to when I showed up.
You really did. It was a hard knock life, but we loved it.
And I just have one last question. Are you just allowed to go to a high school productions if you don't have any kids that go there?
Definitely.
You just all right, cool. Because like this is like definitely an endorsement to go see what can happen when people don't show up.
No, seriously, support your local theaters. They definitely deserve an audience. I've seen a ton of community theater in the area that's very good. And we're in Minneapolis, so I'm sure those who are in other metropolitan areas that you'll be able to find good community theaters in your area as well.
Exactly.
Okay, so let's start getting into the show. So I'm excited. I like this more than I thought I would. But so the structure of our show is during the first half of our show, we will be discussing and reviewing Hairspray. And then the second half will feature our Battle of Twits, a creative competition that will be a three-way debate between Ben, myself, and Liebo. So this movie is Hairspray 2007, a remake directed by Adam Shankman, featuring Nikki Blonsky and many, many more.
I love that we put just her, the no one, and we didn't put any of the
There's
other
so
famous
many,
people.
and we're gonna get into them. Tracy Turnblad, played by Nikki Blonsky, lives in the 1960s Baltimore and obsesses over local teen dancing Corny Collins show. Running home every day to dance in her living room, much to the dismay of her mother, Edna, played by John Travolta. When auditions open up for the new girl to be cast as one of the nicest kids in town, Tracy is rejected due to being overweight and her support for integration. Because she skipped school for audition, Tracy is sent to detention, but meets Seaweed, played by Elijah Kelly, and the rest of the Negro Day dancers, who teach her some new moves that land her a spot on the Corny Collins show.
This musical had kind of an interesting beginning in that it started off as an 80s movie made by John Waters that was not a musical. It was just basically a kitschy, eclectic type of indie movie, right, Liebo?
Yeah, in John Waters' style, he was very controversial and liked to go against society. Like in Pink Flamingo, he actually had this moment where there's this person who lip syncs a song with their anus. So they just flex and unflex their butthole. So for his stuff to become a musical that becomes a Hollywood musical is pretty amazing.
No, it was a moderate success and it became a cult film. And I thought it was kind of funny how there was some real like dance shows, like local dance shows in the 50s and 60s where teens would just dance. And I definitely didn't know that was a thing, but there was one in Baltimore called the Buddy Dean Show. And so it's kind of based off that. And looking into this, the original movie had some changes before they changed it into a musical. So originally, it was the Miss Otto show. It wasn't the Hairspray show. The parents, Velma and Franklin, so the evil people that are super racist, they actually owned an amusement park, which they didn't allow any black people to go to. And this is the part that really blew my mind. Tracy was sent to special ed instead of detention because of her hair don't.
Wow. And
so that was like the biggest change for me. The last thing that I was kind of shocked by is that they, at the end of the movie, in the 1980 movie, they put a bomb in Amber's wig for like the show, and it like goes off and they all like get thrown in jail or something, Amber and her parents. And I'm like, wait, what?
That's
like
legit.
There's a bomb. It's like
Wow.
Whatever. So
That must have been some pretty strong hairspray.
right. So then they move it to the musical, and you know, it won the best musical for the Tonys in 2003 and won 7 other Tony Awards. I also found it interesting that there's this whole, the race riot is the end of Act 1. You know, when we talk about this, the big protest happens almost at the end of the movie. And so in the musical, it happens halfway through and they all go to jail and Tracy goes to jail.
I mean, it's interesting to hear those changes because, like, I'm coming from the perspective of I didn't even know what Hairspray was. Like, I knew it was a musical. I had never seen it, didn't know the plot. So I think immediately when watching the Corny Collins show, it was just like very apparent that this movie was going to be tackling a lot of very adult problems, with integration, racism. And, I think that happened right off the bat with Corny Collins, who's played by the hot guy from 30 Rock.
James Marsden.
He says like, and at the end of the month it's Negro Day, and then I was just like, oh wait, what's this movie about? I was very confused, and then like they started tackling some difficult subjects. So I'd be curious to hear what your guys' perspective is.
Issues with your James Marsden references 30 Rock, but we don't have to.
Oh, I'm sorry, Westworld. My bad.
Okay, so James Marsden is seriously a national treasure. I accidentally have watched 4 things in a row with him in it. First, I watched Dead to Me, which he plays his own twin self, which is amazing. Then we watched Sonic the Hedgehog, where he is just the most empathetic character ever. And then, of course, Hairspray for this. And Enchanted, where he plays the prince that you want to win. So, I mean, James Marsden can do no wrong. But one thing that really stood out to me in this was just the powerhouse that is Queen Latifah. I mean, I loved her back in the day when she was just this hot hip hop artist in the start of like the women's rap movement. But now watching her just belt out I Know Where I've Been, which is the song that owns the show. One of those songs that a director just looks forward to directing all the time. It's just amazing. Like, you can do no wrong if you're Queen Latifah. She is just a national treasure as well.
Right. Wow.
I Know Where I've Been definitely fits the musical trope of the showstopper, where it's the one with it's the big solo that kind of ends the first act. So I can definitely see why they would end it there. Also, the second act and the songs that follow I Know Where I've Been in the movie musical, there are a lot of the wrap up songs, a lot of the jumping from perspective to perspective, a lot of different people singing. Like you've got, I know we're jumping into the end of the movie here, but you got Without Love and You Can't Stop the Beat, like the 2 big group numbers really of the musical. It's interesting how they transition this from a stage musical to a movie musical, because a lot of the stuff that probably worked really well on the stage, I can see not working so well in the movie musical. Like my favorite number from the stage musical is Mama, I'm a Big Girl Now. And they don't even put that song in this movie because it didn't progress the plot enough.
Though, they actually have that song in the credits, and not only do they have it, but they have the parts all being sung by original Tracy's.
Oh, that's
cute.
Cute.
You have like Ricky Lake and Nikki Belansky, and then the other one.
Yeah, the one who originated on Broadway.
That's awesome.
And this was just to the heartbreak of my daughter, Cece, who I made watch Hairspray with me, and it's her favorite song for the show. And she's like, Daddy, where's Mama as a Big Girl Now? And I'm like, oh gosh, now I have to watch the credits.
Ben, you have so much in common with Cece.
It's true. That's why we're best friends.
You wish.
So I don't like musicals.
Boo.
I don't like musical movies. And I was trying to articulate that while watching this, because this is a good movie. There's just nothing wrong with it. Like, my very last note was, this movie was not bad, but it's 1,000% not for me. I think one of my biggest problems with musical movies is that there's no reason for it, and like the things that make live productions impressive, like doing it in one take, the fact that I know that this is not in one take makes me care like exponentially less about a movie version of a musical.
No, I agree with you, Wesley. I actually really hate movie musicals. And
yeah, that's 2 of us.
It's not because I hate musicals. I love musicals. I grew up surrounded by music. My mom was a music teacher, and we went to shows constantly, community theater, everything. However, I have found that a lot of movie musicals just do such a terrible job of adapting it from the stage. Although I have a lot of fond memories of looking back at West Side Story and Oliver. I loved those movies as a kid, even though when I look back on them now, I go, wow, they did not adapt it super well. And so I think I agree with you in the point that this movie was fun, but I think it was a really great adaptation from the stage, even though I've never seen the stage. I was like, this is impressive for a movie musical.
I think my biggest problem is that musicals, the songs are almost always exposition. And the reason that you have exposition in a musical, a live performance, is because there are normally things you can't do and can't convey in one take, in one scene, and really dive into character development. But then in a movie musical, you have that option. Like, so having that overt exposition constantly running through the film, I think is what drives me away from them.
There have been some really crappy movie versions of musicals. I mean, Cats was horrendous. But then there are sometimes that musicals add the exposition that aren't in the show or in the stage show. So like Les Mis, if you watch the actual musical on stage, it doesn't give you the plot like the movie does. Or Hair actually creates a whole plot for a musical that's just usually the musical numbers.
Mamma Mia.
Oh, I directed that one too.
Chicago?
Did not direct that one.
Yeah, we can all name cities, Matt.
See, I think it takes a director that understands the stage and how things work and flow and what works in front of a live audience that might not translate to a movie audience to really make these movie musicals work. Like I think of the movie Rent, which the musical is phenomenal. I love that stage version of that musical, but that movie is trash. And that's because the director didn't understand why things worked on the stage and why it wouldn't work on film. Like that entire scene where the female character is doing like the mooing cow performance art. That is maybe the worst scene in any movie musical I've seen, because what should work as audience participation in the stage does not work in a movie.
That was Idina Menzel, by the way. But yeah, like why would you have them speak what they sing in the musical?
Wow, and
Right.
think about the live production on Fox of Rent. That they really screwed that one up, right? The guy broke his leg.
Well, at least they didn't try to screw it up with John Travolta playing Angel.
So John Travolta, speaking of him, it's tradition for this character, Edna, her mom, to be played by a guy as a drag queen or a drag queen. And so it was originally played by Divine in the movie. And then they gave this drag role for Edna, not only because John Waters had a really close relationship with Divine growing up. I think they went to the same high school or something. But it still allows for the queer community to have that in the movie, even though there aren't any gay characters or queer characters in the movie.
So why John Travolta?
Right, that was my issue too.
Yeah, like I understand he's done singing before, but my God, his Boston accent
Baltimore
drove me up a wall. It sounded more like a Mike Myers Canadian.
There were 3 other actors considered for that role of Edna. Emily knows this because I already quizzed her on this. The 3 are Robin Williams, Tom Hanks, and Steve Martin.
Oh, hello, Trace.
You mean America's dad could have been America's mom? Missed opportunity.
Right off the bat, you can tell that they didn't know what to do with this Edna character and how to treat it on the film. Like they wanted this big name, but this role does not call for a big name. Granted, other than John Travolta's terrible Baltimore accent, I actually really liked his performance. I thought his dancing was really good. I thought he did well emoting through the makeup and kind of just creating this
Great
character
expressions.
that is, this character that's relatable and understandable as this woman who's kind of been locked in her house for the last 10 years, locked by her own self-esteem issues.
It's too bad he had to talk.
You mean John Travolta, who looks like he got stung by 50 bees, sounding like Austin Powers wannabe? You tried to overshadow everyone, but you can't with Christopher Walken in the room.
He'll walk in the room. In terms of like what you said, Ben, big name, I would have gone for RuPaul. I think just honoring the drag queen could have been nice.
You do understand the racial implications of this play, right? That you can't have Edna be black. Like you picked up on the racial tones of this movie, right?
He's a drag queen. You haven't seen Ru go completely transform? I'm sorry.
He's black.
Are you saying you want RuPaul in whiteface?
Yikes.
Okay.
Yikes.
I can't see what people look at me, can only see the color of my face. Oh yeah. And there's those that try to help, God knows, but always have to put me in my place.
Act 2. Tensions arrives in the competition for Miss Teenage Hairspray for Amber and her mom, Velma, Brittany Snow, and Michelle Pfeiffer. But Tracy is focused on more important things such as the Negro Day dancers and Penny and Seaweed's new relationship, and obviously the heartthrob Link, played by Zac Efron. Velma threatens Motormouth Maybelle, played by Queen Latifah, and the Negro Day dancers with their last show, and then tries to seduce Tracy's dad, played by Christopher Walken.
see all these big names. It's ridiculous.
Mm-hmm.
It's just ridiculous. You know, we talked about James Marsden even, and I don't know. I think it worked in this case.
So good.
I think some movies, they just throw random famous people in, and I thought this movie did okay. Specifically, Christopher Walken. I loved him in the role.
So good.
It was an all-star cast. You throw in Michelle Pfeiffer, James Marsden, Christopher Walken. You get yourself some Zac Efron before he's all beefed up. I mean, even Brittany Snow. This is an amazing cast for a show.
The thing that I really liked about the casting of this movie is you do put all these big name actors in there, but they all have smallish roles, which allows each of them to try to individually steal this movie, which is the thing I liked about this movie the most, is that every person in this movie is committed to the part they're playing, and they are all just gung-ho, like, I'm going to steal this scene from the person who's supposed to be the star.
Yeah, that's a really good point, because Nikki Blonsky, she was 17 years old and she worked at a Cold Stone when she auditioned for this. And so she was a nobody. And so the fact that she did just such a phenomenal performance of this character and then had all of these amazing supporting actors around her, I thought that made the movie so much more likable.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's really cool because she was found in an open cast call, and they actually auditioned her 8 months before they gave her the cast, and then or the role. And then imagine, like, you get this role, and then you go and you walk in to all these famous actors.
Walken.
Mm-hmm.
Christopher Walken.
Okay, no. We really need to talk about Christopher Walken because I am recently obsessed with him because of this movie.
Recently?
I need to tell you that the first time I ever saw Christopher Walken in literally anything was his Continental sketch. And I want to know, what is the thing that you remember seeing Christopher Walken in? Like, what is the memorable thing? Because he's in everything.
So the first thing I ever saw him in was the Fatboy Slim music video. And I didn't have any idea who that was or why, like, that character type would be funny in that spot. But he still won me over with his dancing. Like, he's a phenomenal dancer, and he's classically trained.
Yeah, I mean, when I think of him, I think of the more cowbell sketch. And then, you know, obviously he's been in so many great movies. And, you know, I think Catch Me If You Can, he's always playing a great dad. I think a lot of that's like a theme for a lot of his roles, but so good. Just and his voice. Wow.
It's pretty good.
For me, it was King of New York. So being old and all that, I got to watch him first start as like this mafioso kind of guy, like a really tough guy. And so watching him do all these comedy things now is really just awesome.
I'm trying to think of like what I probably saw him in first. It was either the Fatboy Slim video or Joe Dirt. Which
Yep.
I'm two classics.
I'm on the fence of if I'm ashamed of that or not, but I think his performance in that is awesome. But my question for Emily is, have you ever seen Deer Hunter?
Okay, so that's what I wanted to get into. No, of course I have not, because who you're talking to? It's me. I don't know anything about movies.
Mhm.
I didn't want to assume.
You can probably assume about this. So I learned that Christopher Walken doesn't refuse any roles. He literally says that every one of them is a learning opportunity and experience for him. And, you know, as Ben said, he's originally trained as a dancer. He was even a lion tamer in the circus, which I thought was just, well, duh. But he's been in so many movies: Pulp Fiction, A View to Kill, The Dead Zone, The Deer Hunter, Annie Hall, Sleepy Hollow. But he's really well known for his mannerisms and speech patterns and accent, which honestly reminds me of Tommy Wiseau.
Oh, wow.
Like, seriously.
Not
Jesus.
refusing roles is how you end up as the villain in Country Bears. So maybe he should start refusing some roles.
I don't know. He plays a great villain though. Like you know, Emily touched on it. A View to a Kill. I forgot that he was a Bond villain as well. A Bond villain with his master plan of kicking people out of a blimp. Come on, that's amazing.
So here, I just gotta know, can anyone do a good Christopher Walken impression? Because
No.
I cannot, and I just want to ask if anyone wants to try.
I'll try.
Because I just watched The Continental, and I was like, my little wildflower.
Nope, that wasn't it.
Nope.
Every stand-up comedian has a Christopher Walken impression, so
They
Matt
try.
definitely has one ready.
Matt's got it.
I think like you have certain words that try to get you into it, but I'll like quickly lose it. Like one of them is like, wow.
Wow.
Thank you for inviting me on the podcast. Which is like, you could hear it at the end of podcast. It started to lose it. But at first you're like, oh, wow, he's going something. No, he's not. He's not going anywhere.
Actually, now that I think about it, the first thing I remember Christopher Walken from is the Simpsons episode where he's reading Goodnight Moon.
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
Good night, moon. Good night, moon.
Good night, cow. Jumping over the moon.
So good.
But speaking of characters in this movie, I want to talk about Amanda Bynes a little bit. And what the hell was up with, like, I tried to look at kind of her timeline of like what happened. And I think this was before all of it, but she seemed so uninterested in this movie. Like you talked about all the characters trying to steal their own scenes and, competing, but it seemed like Amanda Bynes almost this entire movie was just kind of like there. And that's about it.
Oh, I disagree with that.
Except if you actually know the character Penny Pingleton, she is supposed to be that. She's supposed to be completely aloof, and so that she can grow as a character while meeting Seaweed. So Amanda Bynes actually played it perfectly.
And it doesn't help that her big song is Mama, I'm a Big Girl Now, and it got cut. So like her opportunity to shine was kind of taken away at the last second because they filmed it and then ended up cutting it from the movie. But girl can't dance. Like if you watch the last scene, they've got her in this like mermaid style dress and her legs are stuck together. And all she can do is like wiggle back and forth like a worm because she can't dance. She's got no rhythm. And even as she's trying to mash potato, you can tell she doesn't know what she's doing.
Wow.
So I think she was just very out of her element in this movie.
Yeah. And in terms of her timeline, I know like a lot of her mental health stuff is related to Dan Schneider, the Nickelodeon ousted showrunner show guy. And if you do any research on that, it's kind of creepy. And like, I feel like she's a victim of Hollywood. So I feel like a lot of her mental health all stems from all of that. So,
So funny story is she actually ate all the suckers that she was given each day for shooting, so that she consumed about 40 suckers a day while shooting this movie.
Yeah. And her dad's a dentist. So he was not happy.
Yeah, her mom did not want her to eat any of the suckers, so she told her mom that she only took a bite out of each.
That is so funny. I was actually going to calculate out like how long it would take for all of that. And I'm like, nah, whatever. Stupid math teacher over here.
Well, it's 3 licks to get to the center of a lollipop, right?
Wrong lollipop.
A big part of this second act is the racist attitude of the white characters, and specifically Michelle Pfeiffer's Velma character in relation to the Corny Collins show. What did you guys think about how the racism was presented in this movie?
Coming from the perspective of not knowing anything and just coming in kind of cold, like I felt like it was trying to make light of a very serious subject. Not make light, but like it was just taking a heavy subject and making it lighter as in like a comedy. But overall, I thought Michelle Pfeiffer did a great job of being a villain. And I felt like maybe Tracy was a little bit too much of like this like example for the Black community where they were like lifting her up.
So no doubt that Tracy is a little bit of a white savior role, which they love to do in Hollywood. But she's not as much of a white savior role as something like Green Book, because Seaweed actually encourages her to do the dance to get the attention and kind of help raise awareness. She's not like teaching a Black man how to eat fried chicken. So it is a bit better that way.
Yeah.
And they use, this is a good way of them using music. Like you have Seaweed who tells his story and his struggle to run and tell that, which I'm sure Wes, you must have hated.
I just want to make sure that when you say Wes hated this, we're not talking about the message of the song and that you
It's the
think I don't
plot
like the song.
Don't worry, Wes, you're not a big racist, just a big jerk.
Okay, that's all.
So the good thing about this movie is it does show the Black characters in a positive light the whole time. You got Motormouth, you got Seaweed, you got all the ones in detention who are supporting. You have little Inez. And the only character that's truly showing disdain for them is the true bad guy of Velma. Even Corny Collins is trying to show his support for the Black community. So that part is at least a positive.
Right. And honestly, I really liked the commentary in this musical and the movie showing how there's a lot of prejudice against Black people in the education community too, having all the Black kids in detention or in the movie in special ed. And so having that as a commentary on it, Tracy shows up and it's all the Black kids. Like, what the hell?
Liebo, you mentioned White Savior and Green Book, and there are other movies that present this this white person coming to save black people from society or themselves. And this movie did have a little bit of that because it was Tracy was the one that introduced protesting to the black people. Like that is White Savior misrepresentation.
101?
Yeah.
And her mom being the only two white people in the march up front, in the middle, being the ones to confront the police.
And her mom being won over by the spread of food.
Yeah, well, that's a whole different issue, Wes, with the protests, because again, how similar is that to today, where you've got the white girl at the front lines is the one that instigates the violence, but then it's the black people that get arrested. Like, if that's not a parallel to what we're seeing now with the Black Lives Matter movement, like this movie was 13 years ago and it's still this same way.
That's
right. And speaking of that, what bothered me from the musical to the movie musical is that Tracy doesn't get thrown in jail with everyone else. You know, she randomly hits a police officer with her sign, and suddenly the police officer is like, well, we're going to arrest everyone. And she immediately fucking runs away.
Mm-hmm.
Like, to me, that was so stupid. It really bothered me. And I know she gets like locked up later in Penny's mom's house, but it just didn't make sense to me why they would do that.
In the musical, they actually do put her in jail, which is actually quite fun as a director, because for Without Love, you have Link on the outside of the bars and Tracy on the inside of the bars, instead of singing to a picture and having the picture sing back. And when we directed this, we actually had them hold the bars and turn around. So it was really fun to watch. And the Tracy character is interesting because although she does seem to fit under the whole white savior complex, she actually does not have the joy or the self-worth coming from it either. She doesn't benefit herself from helping the black community. I mean, to be the first white person to ever be sent to detention at this school, I guess, she doesn't go in there thinking, oh my goodness, look at these scary people. She immediately starts mingling and trying to learn their dances and trying to like understand why they're so awesome.
Okay.
Is that also due to her being somewhat of an outcast in this perfect Baltimore white world?
I mean, it is just a story about Link wanting to be a chubby chaser.
wow. Liebo's saying something really smart and just like really nice, and then just canceling it all out.
Yeah, she's a chubby communist girl, I believe she is.
Yes, that is the line.
Called.
I mean, the whole story is about, oh my God, I can't like this girl because she's fat and I'm on TV.
Those are the themes. Those are the themes, baby. Tracy and the Negro Day dancers march for the integration of the local TV station, but Tracy assaults a police officer and goes on the run so as not to be arrested. She and her friends hatch a plan to sneak her into the Corny Collins show and perform for Miss Teenage Hairspray competition. And Tracy encourages other audience members to dance, including Seaweed's little sister, Little Inez. In a surprising turn of events, Little Inez wins the competition, making her the leading lady on the show and thus making TV integrated.
Because it magically just resolves and everyone's happy with this, which we know is not fucking true, obviously, because of Black Lives Matter and all of the racism that we are dealing with today. And so I was talking to Corbin about this a little bit, how, and Ben, you mentioned it earlier, how a lot of times protests, you see the white people instigating the violence in these peaceful protests. I also have noticed that there used to be this idea about white people had to organize these protests and start these protests. And I'm seeing it again, in my opinion, from celebrities and social media as a form of protest. And so they're trying to be these allies, similar to how Tracy was trying to be an ally, but it's just complicated. The failure of Hairspray, in my opinion, is it attempts to talk about protests and how they form, but don't give a platform to Black people, except for maybe when Tracy like steals the show at the end of the movie. You know, she comes in, they all sneak in together, and she pulls Little Inez onto stage, and then she thus wins the pageant thing, right? And that's different from the musical. The musical on stage is Tracy wins, and then I don't know what she does after that, but I know that she won. So I guess for me, with that, giving that platform to Black people at the end of the movie, I felt like that was a better ending than the stage musical. Even though I thought it was a little bit too happy, like, yay, we're all going to just accept it.
Mm-hmm.
It's great because it shows Tracy as more of an ally to the Black community than one trying to fix the Black community. And in truth, that's what we're missing in this world is right now you have the whole Black Lives Matter protests going on. And what you see is you see a lot of white people taking the streets and trying to really help out because they want to learn to be allies. Why, if a police pulls over somebody who's Black, you see people stopping with cell phones to record it so they can show that they're allies to the Black community.
I was reading an article earlier today about whites responding to the changes that need to be made for systemic racism. And I think even the allies can say, I want things to change. But when it comes down to the nitty gritty of what needs to change, white people are still, even the allies, very resistant to that because it changes their way of life to an extent. So even those people who can say, like, I'm an ally to Black people, there's still that pull inside of us to kind of hold on to the things that we think we deserve, when really we need to be holding everything with more of an open hand and saying whatever it takes to make true equality happen should be on the table for you to take.
This movie really spoke to me, especially where I live right now. Living in South Minneapolis, we were right in the base of where the riots were happening, based on the George Floyd killing and lack of convictions. So it's been really interesting to see it all happen. You have like peaceful protesting happening. Then you have these random like white supremacists showing up and trying to destroy things to make the Black community look bad. And I've taken some time to walk over to the actual George Floyd Memorial and see how beautiful the graffiti is around there. And they put a garden in there. And there's all this stuff of people showing their respects and kindness of multiple races, multiple cultures, just to show that this kind of thing is affecting us all. And we want to fix this. So being where I am right now, I get to be in the epicenter, and it's so relevant to this actual movie because they are trying to deal with the same issues.
Thanks for bringing that up, Liebo. It's nice to have these conversations and to feel in the same place.
Yeah.
So, terrible segue here. What was your favorite part of this movie?
Oh, wow.
Matt, did you have a favorite song or line?
I guess my favorite part is, we talked about all the superstars that were in this, but in my opinion, my favorite character was Seaweed, who was played by Elijah Kelly. And I had to go and look him up because I was like, what else has this guy been in? He's not only a great dancer, his facial expressions were amazing. And he was, for me, I always loved him in every scene. I was kind of surprised I hadn't seen him in anything else since then.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I would say he was definitely my favorite part. My favorite scene would be Christopher Walken making a bed of whoopee cushions and just all the farts after he'd been kicked out of the house or whatever. Yep. That was really fun, as well as like the seduction scene. He's like explaining X-ray specs to while she's trying to
and
seduce.
All the jokes.
Yeah, it was just a lot of fun.
And the whoopee cushions he uses weren't even created till 1980s, so they took a little bit of liberty there.
Yeah, take that, Matt. Your favorite scene was wrong.
Being a John Waters fan, I love how he always pushes the line and is a little bit risque. So like you have when Allison Jennings and her amazingness shows up to pick up her clothes, they talk about the personal stains that are on the clothes, but they don't go too deep into it. Or, you get like the Velma throwing in things like steer them in the white direction, or the little comment about the nose joke that's following the oi gewollt comment that she makes. So it's so risque that they take chances that you wouldn't normally see in a poppy musical.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Or even the joke, how long are you not going to be on the show? And she's like 9 months.
Yep.
Yeah.
And at our school, we had to try to put it on as our first musical. So there was a very small number of people who auditioned. So we actually had to have the white characters played by white and Asians. Like we had an Asian American Amber, which was really cool. And then the Hispanic character, or the Hispanic and African American students, were the Black kids. So that was a fun little challenge. And it was really fun to block all these because they had a little bit more freedom in the movie of doing like the talking picture frame of Without Love and all that. And we had to actually act it out. We also only had one small stage in what was called the cafetorium. So we had to have that one stage without any fly system, have the backdrops for all places at once. So we had to split the stage into multiple spots and different levels to try to do it. One thing that was a really fun challenge was trying to do You Can't Stop the Beat. Because nothing like an art school to have kids with the stamina to pull off You Can't Stop the Beat. It's like a 7-minute song or 8-minute song where they sing and dance their hearts out the whole entire time. And to like actually get them in shape because they were so winded, we would make them run stairs in our building.
Good thing there were 8 flights of stairs.
I had a problem with Without Love, and it could just be the pacing of this play that I Know Where I've Been happens in the first act of the stage musical, and then in the second act you get Without Love. But I thought the shift in tone from I Know Where I've Been to Without Love was way too jarring. Like, the movie was super serious about these like racist protests, and then you jump into this silly song where a boy is singing to a picture, and it completely threw me off. And for that reason, that song is probably my least favorite one in this movie.
Oh my gosh, it's like how you transitioned from our talk about racial issues and then into our favorite part of the movie, parallels.
So speaking of my favorite part of the movie, we touched on this a lot, and mine is also Christopher Walken. It's a little two-part quickie, but realizing that Christopher Walken essentially runs a 1960s Spencer Gifts made me very happy. I thought that was hilarious. And then his line, you see all the way to Schenectady, which was a very nice, I thought that was a pretty cool way to tell his daughter that you're the future, you have great vision, you see things in a broader light than any of us old people with our limited view can do. But I think it's hilarious, A, to use the word Schenectady for Christopher Walken. I think that's brilliant. And B, because I work with maps almost all day, every day, I had to look it up, and Schenectady to Baltimore is 340 miles and is about a 5.5 hour drive. So that's some pretty good vision.
That is some pretty good vision. I honestly loved so much about this movie. Again, I said I didn't really like movie musicals a lot of times just because I prefer the stage. But the way they included all of the dancing, the choreography in this is incredible, and how they cut to different parts of the choreography I thought was really incredible. The music in it and the backup singers, even if they didn't show the backup singers in the scene, the singing was amazing. And I'm with Matt. Elijah Kelly was phenomenal, and I wish he was in more things for me to watch. So it's like a tie between Elijah Kelly and Christopher Walken for me. And honestly, Zac Efron, he surprised me. He surprised me in this movie.
Yeah, my favorite part of this movie is the way that we're introduced to this world. The song Good Morning Baltimore, then leading into Nicest Kids in Town. Like, it immediately lets you know what kind of musical you're in for when she steps in front of the garbage truck. And in the quick cut, we then see her riding to school on the garbage truck. Like, you knew at that point that anything could happen in this movie, and that you better be ready to suspend your disbelief, because this shit's going to get crazy.
And I was watching it, and then the whole town started dancing. I'm like, yes, it's that kind of movie.
Yeah.
I mean, literally, it starts in the heavens, as though God's telling us a story, and you fly in from the heavens to go down to the very sound of the heartbeat of dun, dun, dun. Dun,
That's
dun,
right.
dun.
And then the way that the Nicest Kids in Town introduced the theme that was going to happen around the struggle for integration of Black people, with just the simple line of nice white kids, as he's singing about the people dancing there. Like, you knew right away, nice white kids. And at the end of the month, we have our Negro Day. Like, what a way to introduce that serious theme into this movie in just a very silly but almost natural way.
Yeah.
Right.
Wesley, you got some things you want to talk about here?
These are just a few of our incredible thoughts.
All right, so this week it's a little bit shorter because I actually got to interject a lot of my thoughts, but here's just a few. Okay, so she's in Baltimore. I don't think we needed a song for that. That's just where my brain started out with this movie. Wasn't real happy about a musical, so pretty upset that we had like 10 minutes about, hey, I'm in Baltimore. Great, let's move on with our lives. Travolta is fucking terrible, and it should surprise nobody that this movie came out between Wild Hogs and Bolt.
I like Bolt. Fuck you.
I like Bolt too.
Yeah, and I didn't hate Travolta, so.
I didn't
either.
Well, fuck me then. All right, that's all I got this week.
Okay, I got my dad joke here. Dad joke. I think it'd be more accurate if Christopher Walken and Ted Danson swapped last names.
Ted Walken? Because
No, Christopher Dancer.
Oh, no, I get it. But I'm saying, how does that work for two?
I'm just saying I've never seen Ted dance, and I rarely see Christopher walk.
And Ted Danson definitely has a swagger.
Okay.
Fuck, man, that was really good. Honestly, I had to think about it for a minute.
Well, I have a microphone, and you don't.
So you will listen to every damn word I have to say.
So I have something I want to rave about today, actually. So we mentioned Zac Efron with his portrait scene. What song was that again?
Without Love.
Without Love. So when we first get to this movie, there are these constant winking into the mirror, and there's so many of these creepy photos of him, and it's just so ridiculous and funny, like you said, Liebo. But I loved this scene. This was probably my favorite scene. There are all these ridiculous shots. He's in bed with this portrait of Tracy singing to it, and he like sexually thrusts his hips into the bed, and I'm like, what is this movie? And then he's like kissing the portrait. He has a candy bar for a microphone, and then he eats it. And I'm like, God, this is so ridiculous. But the thing that I loved the most about this scene is when there's this angled shot where he has the portrait and he's like sweeping it across in front of him, and then he falls back onto the bed, and I'm like, this is amazing.
Yeah.
I love every second of this. This is so creepy. Why are her parents letting him into her room? But I still love it. So that's what I loved about this movie. Liebo, what did you think of this movie?
I gave it 4.5 inflated whoopee cushions out of 5. As a musical adaptation, it did a great job keeping the essence and character. As we watched the destruction to stage to screen in movies like Cats, The Producers, and even Russell Crowe's destruction in Les Mis, it's refreshing to see one that keeps the liveliness, joy, and message as Hairspray does. Does John Travolta and his Austin Powers-like accent make you drink or cringe? Yes.
Yeah.
But does the rest of the production make for a memorable ride? Yes, indeed. This far-out movie is truly the gas. It makes as much of a mark in our heart as their aerosol cans make in the ozone layer.
Very nice. I just want to say
awesome.
I liked Russell Crowe in Les Mis.
Fuck you. Get the fuck out of here.
I did.
You would.
It was a nice change of pace from the rest of the voices in that movie, and I think more than his performance, I think he was hurt by the way that the director wanted to film that movie than any other character was, because he does not have a traditional singing voice. So having to film all of those songs live and singing that gravelly tone, I think he got screwed over by the director.
That's the nicest way I've ever heard somebody describe a bad singer.
So we have our three-way with our guest, Liebo. And so Ben, Matt, and Liebo are going to do this. Wesley is going to be my helper this round because I am moderating. What's up?
Yeah.
So I have a list of 6 musicals, and Matt, Liebo, and Ben are going to select one of these musicals for their first question. Matt, you are picking first because you know the least about musicals.
All right.
Here are your choices: Fiddler on the Roof, Avenue Q, Jesus Christ Superstar, Sound of Music, Rocky Horror, or Annie. Matt, do you want a rundown on all of these musicals?
No, I know all of them, surprisingly.
What the hell? Yes!
Okay, so I'm going to go with Jesus Christ Superstar.
I knew you were.
For your mom.
Liebo, would you like me to read them again?
No, I'll go with Fiddler on the Roof, being Jewish and all.
All right, Ben, you got Avenue Q, Sound of Music, Rocky Horror, or Annie.
Give me Avenue Q.
Yeah, Ben and I saw that together in New York.
Mm-hmm.
That's so cute. I've never seen it. I've always wanted to. Welcome to the 60s. I mean the Battle of Twits. Welcome to the Battle of Twits. All right, so I'm guest moderating today. I'm going to pose 3 rounds of questions to our less than groovy dance perts and let them try to convince me and Wesley who can tap dance circles around the others. The winner of each round will get 2 points. Second place 1, and the loser gets 0. I will be more easily persuaded by the more funky and descriptive answers, and let's be honest, I will really enjoy the musical and theatrical answers. So, after our Miss Teenage Hairspray is crowned the winner, they will force the losers to dance/sing for their own amusement. Question number 1.
Wesley's Random Question.
With Wemily! So, as we discussed earlier, Christopher Walken's impressive talents in this movie and other movies show that he would not only be an asset to any film, but also any musical. I gave you some options for a musical, and now you are going to add Christopher Walken as a new character to your chosen musical. Matt, we are going to start with you.
So I chose Jesus Christ Superstar. Now, if you look at Christopher Walken and what makes him good in any role, one of the underlying factors is almost always that he's an excellent father. So if you add Christopher Walken to anything, you really need to showcase him being a really great dad in his dancing skills. So I would add him to this musical as God himself. I've elected to make God a dad. That is correct. I know that can be controversial, but I can already picture him up in there in heaven in his white robes, dancing around and then flying around, similar to Fatboy Slim in his music video. Adding the character of God also enriches the musical by giving Jesus more fatherly advice as he deals with his earthly urges with Mary Magdalene, and then some tough love with his impending crucifixion. I would also heavily feature him singing duets where he's being ignored by Judas and Pontius Pilate. He'd be like, "Hey, I'm God. And if you don't listen to me, I'll smite you." So, Jesus Christ Superstar.
I'm going to be honest, that accent kind of slipped into, oh my God, what the hell is his name?
Jerry Seinfeld.
Thank you. I was like, wait a second.
Or else I'll smite you.
Okay, Liebo, you chose Fiddler.
Adding Christopher Walken to Fiddler on the Roof could go many ways. Is he commanding the plot through Tevye? Is he the heavily make-up to empathetic muddle, wanting to innocently marry the eldest daughter? Does he appear in drag but not change his voice to haunt them in the story of the grandmother Seidel? Too hard to decide. So we will be putting on Christopher Walken's one-man show of Fiddler on the Roof. The man is a classically trained dancer, so he can surely balance a bottle for the bottle dance. I'm certain he can play the fiddle as he is Christopher fucking Walken. This will be performed in a black box theater with him wearing a neutral outfit and adding different accessories to play the characters. Tevye gets a beard, the rabbi a yarmulke, Golda yellow scarf, Yente planning book, Fedika the Russian a furry Russian hat, Grandmother Seidel will get scary ghost shit. Walken's creative pacing will open up a newfound interpretation of the popular musical. His thoughtful delivery of "if I were a rich man" will make you believe the dream could come true for him. His Anna Tevka will break your heart as he emotes through his clever, deliberate spacing of the syllables. His one-man show will allow him to be part Deer Hunter, part Nine Lives, part Peter Pan Live as Captain Hook, and even Morty from Click, the Bed, Bath, and Beyond. Not many have the skills to pull off such a versatile, heart-wrenching performance, but Christopher Walken is the man.
Okay, so Liebo, I gotta ask. So obviously, Christopher Walken as every character. Can you explain how that is a new character in the musical? By playing all of it. Give me your reasoning.
It would be like a new character because of his unique pacing and the new life he would add to the characters and their interpretation.
I love it. Thank you. All right. And Ben, you chose Avenue Q, the naughty Sesame Street?
Yeah, pretty much. So for those who don't know, since Avenue Q has not had a movie made about it, it's a musical that tells a story of puppets and humans living in an outer borough of New York. So in the musical, one of the characters is child actor Gary Coleman. He plays the super of the apartment building. So it would not be weird to have Christopher Walken play himself within this musical. So Christopher Walken is filming a new movie that requires him to play a poor person. So he chooses to move into the building on Avenue Q so that he can gain the information for him to method act the role. He moves in with Tricky Monster and learns what it's like to be poor. He would easily be added into the number "The Internet is for Porn." The internet is for porn, as well as a new second act number where he literally has to tap dance around the issue of race. The addition of Christopher Walken would allow for many meta jokes made about him and about method acting.
I got a quick question for Ben.
Yeah.
So literally tap dancing around the issue of race, what is the visual representation that he is tap dancing around? I
figure some of the characters, because there's a lot of talk about race and racism within the show of Avenue Q. So I think having characters having arguments, like pre-established characters having arguments about race with each other on stage, as literally Christopher Walken just tap dances between the conversations, like and around trying to he'll tap dance towards one and they'll start talking about race and you'll see him tap dance away.
All right. So number 2.
The Deuce.
In Hairspray, the nicest kids in town are white teen celebrities in Baltimore. And all the kids admire them, probably the white ones, and want to be on the show someday. Although some adults, like Penny's mom, find the dancing to be smut. I would like you to write a fan letter to one of the nicest kids in town. This time we are starting with Benjamin.
Dear Doreen, you are the keenest chick on the Corny Collins show. The others are all show and no go, but you, babe, you are the bee's knees. Way better than that square Noreen. Who does she think she is, always copying your dance moves? We all know you're the trendsetter and the tops chick on the show, which is why you come right before Link. What a Ken doll. I love the way you twist rumba and mashed potato. With a proper dance partner, me, Liebo, I know that we could lay a trip on Amber, get all Meshuggah, and top that crown on your perfect do. Then after, we could go cruising in my Pop's Mustang, split a milkshake, and do a little parkin'. Wink. Your future main squeeze, Liebo. P.S. I am Jewish, so we can piss off both our parents by being together.
Wow.
Different Liebo, probably.
So it is Noreen.
It is Noreen.
Not
yeah.
Maureen like we thought.
No.
Wow. Okay, what inspired you to pick Liebo?
I mean, he was around in the 60s, so.
Ooh.
Damn. Not technically
That
true, but
is
the burn
false.
feels good.
All that lingo was just
Whatever,
for
you
Liebo.
whippersnapper. Get off my lawn.
All right. Matt, you are next.
Dear Brad, golly gee, I think you're so much sweller than any of the other kids, especially Link. The way you say Brad and put your hands up on your hips, I just think that's the bee's knees. In case you were wondering a little about me, I'm a 45-year-old comic book store owner, and anytime you want to come down to the store, I will gladly give you free candy and Batman and Superman comics, because those are out. We even have some newer comics I think you might like The Amazing Spider-Man. It's neato. Anyway, I'm your biggest fan, and I would just really enjoy your company down at the shop. And I think you would attract a lot more business at the shop from me. P.S. Have you ever tried calling yourself B-Rad? Wouldn't that be rad? Brad, your biggest fan, Chester, the comic book store owner.
I can't stop smiling, Matt. You are super creative today. I'm excited.
Yeah, I made a child molester. It's my...
Wait, this isn't from you?
Is my name Chester?
I don't know. Maybe it is.
I don't know.
Maybe it's my alter ego.
Oh, right.
I've drank quite a bit.
Matt, I think you've got this whole like pedophile thing going down for you. You like constantly bring it up now that since Juno.
Do you guys have any questions, or everything's kind of solid?
No, everything is. I don't want to know
Okay.
anymore. Liebo, your turn.
Hello, IQ. Insert the Big Bopper voice. I just think you are out of sight, man. You are so groovy and truly righteous on the Corny Collins show. I am bummed out that you don't get more screen time. When you do, it's a blast. But the downer broad, Amber Von Tussle, keeps bogarting the camera. Like, not cool. She's all show and no go, you hear? I keep telling myself not to flip my wig, but I just want to call the station and think on her. I'm so ticked off. I was wondering if I could get some advice from you. See, I'm kind of a dweeb like you. Kind of a sweat hog, not to chop myself to the nines. I try to come across as a cool-headed fella, but I cannot find me an old lady to keep. I'm totally on the make, but get shot down or tuned out by foxy broads. I see you having a blast with the primest meats in town, so you know the deeds on how to pull the babes. It would be bitchin' if you could help a fellow chat. Color me gone, Ben.
That's late edition for you there by Betty Ben at the end.
No,
Retaliation.
you can check the writing. It's there.
Oh
I'd
my
just
goodness.
like to point out I didn't do Liebo or Ben, because I would have been left out because I didn't get to be
No, you wrote as yourself. Your alter ego.
That's right. That's right.
Question number 3. Before Hairspray was a musical, it was a movie from the 80s. Funnily enough, Bob's Burgers turned a couple 80s movies into musicals as well. Die Hard and Working Girl. So this seems like something our Twits should do too, obviously, right? I asked you to turn an 80s movie into a stage musical. So give me the title of 3 songs from your musical and explain how the story/tone would change if it would. We are starting off with Liebo this time.
I would create a much needed musical for Goonies, the musical. It would work as a hodgepodge of styles and themes. The most important component is embracing and homaging the magnificent characters and quotes. To truly make it shine, I would make the most famous of the quotes into the musical numbers. Each character would get to have their moment to break the fourth wall and express their personal desire. Although there are some comedic moments, this is truly a dramatic tale. A struggling community, losing the battle against the man, struggling against the smaller necessary evil to try to pull themselves up, finding the inner strength, the power of differences, and the importance of having a rudimentary sword skills. The major songs would be Chunk's Confession, which would be orchestrated only through the series of blunders being started and stopped, delivered in a rhythmic, emoting style of the great Lin-Manuel Miranda. Yo, I had to puke in the jacket, went to the balcony to make a racket, and then I let them have it. Hooah, 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 hooah. Then there will be Booty Traps, sung by Data. He will sing these in the style of Chicago and a Fosse style of dance. He would sing purposely descriptions of each of the traps, while setting them up in a jazzy dance style. Each time he sings the chorus, oh yes, oh yes, oh yes, I'm planting these, oh yes, I'm planting these booty traps, Steph would pop up and say, booby traps. Mikey's power ballad of Goonies Never Say Die via the style of Corner in the Sky from Pippin. This will be all about the crescendos. It will tell the truncated version of the struggle they all have faced and how easy it is to quit, until he remembers the moral. Then it becomes the motivational song. Of course, Hey You Guys. This one would be the style of Phantom of the Opera, his inner monologue. This will be shown through the use of shifting lights and angling of blocking. The most important aspects of this song will be the way Sloth sings in his subconscious, which is where the operatic stylings and word usage of the Phantom-type character will present an intelligence and awareness that will counterbalance the verbal and visual moments he shares by swinging the silly pirate hat, saying things like, chocolate, baby Ruth, Mom, you've been bad, and Sloth love Chuck. The bonus would be a 10-minute musical dance of the Truffle Shuffle.
Fuck, that's ridiculous. Okay, so that was something. Ben, your turn.
The movie I chose to turn into a stage musical is The Breakfast Club. The transition to the stage would be a relatively easy one since the cast is small, the action mostly takes place in a single setting, and it tackles difficult issues that lend themselves to songs sung by the cast. In fact, much of the tone and story of the movie would remain intact, just with the addition of music throughout. The musical would start with the song A Lost Saturday, introducing our 5 main characters as they arrive at the library for their Saturday detention. The principal would sing to our Breakfast Club the song Get the Horns, where he lays down the expectations for behavior. Then each Breakfast Clubber would have the opportunity throughout the show to have a solo, each in a different music style that matches their personality, as we learn more about them and the teenage struggles they are facing. Then at the climax of the movie, all of the 5 styles are blended into one song called The Breakfast Club, where they realize that they aren't so different and work together to salvage their Saturday. The show closes with a 5-part a cappella rendition of Don't You Forget About Me, as they part ways, probably never being together as a group again.
Drop the mic. Do it.
That was a good answer.
Yeah, that would probably be a very successful musical, honestly.
Yeah, that was a good answer. All right.
I mean, I really liked Liebo's. I'm just saying, like,
Yeah,
from the format of what people actually fucking want from a musical, that's not how I'm doing this, judging whatsoever. I'm just saying, like, that probably could be easily portrayed into a musical.
Just hang on for my answer, Emily.
Yeah, I'm excited for Matt's.
All right, let's do this Top Gun musical.
So the movie I chose was Top Gun, and this would be more of a direct translation from movie into musical. Like most of the bar scenes would have some music from the film that would directly translate, fairly straightforward, with some fun choreography to advance the story, like Great Balls of Fire and You've Lost That Loving Feeling. 2 karaoke classics, with original music also interspersed in. But the other original song from the film that we'd modify the set and the tone to recreate the drama. For example, we'd use the classic stage production by adding a big fan in front of his motorcycle scene and painting the background a bright sunset orange for Take My Breath Away, which can be sung by Charlie, on the other side of the stage in a different bedroom set, waiting for Maverick to arrive for their secret rendezvous. Just stop and think about how melodramatic this film would be. All of your characters just having a call sign as their name. Maverick, Charlie, Iceman, Goose, Viper. Even the supporting characters have call signs. Jester, Cougar, Wolfman, Slider, Sundown, Hollywood, Merlin. That's Tim Robbins. Literally, the only character that doesn't have a call sign is Goose's wife, Meg Ryan, who in my musical would be called Honey Bear. The musical would almost be exactly the original story, which is important when you remake and adapt a classic. It would include all the iconic scenes like the locker room, the bars, sand volleyball, and most importantly, the fighter jet scenes. And because we don't have millions of dollars to make these jets, we would recreate the drama using stagehands wearing all black and piecing together the fighter jets around our actors. That way we could have some great action sequences while simultaneously being able to jump out of the cockpit and into a single beam of light to break the fourth wall with a twirl to get their inner dialogue through song. It's the only way to effectively capture scenes like Maverick coming to terms with Goose's death while in the middle of an intense dogfight. Finally, a movie for teenage boys who have the need for speed.
Why does Goose's wife need a call sign? She's not in the military.
Well, I mean, like he's when they sing Great Balls of Fire, they have a little back and forth where she's like, "I'm coming home, Goose." He's like, "Show me the way, honey bear." And I just wanted to, when you open that playbill, I want everybody's name to be one thing. You know what I mean? And I think that would look better.
Ooh, that's a nice visual.
Yeah, that's a good touch. I like that.
Yeah, if only this question would design a playbill, you would have won.
Hey, what are you, the judge, jury, and executioner? Get out of here, you stupid bitch.
Ooh. All right, I guess we're starting like that, Wesley.
Friendos.
All right, you three, we're back, and this was so fun to read and talk about your answers to your questions. We had a blast. I'm actually going to start with number 3 because we just talked about that, and I just want to say all 3 of these musicals I would see. Matt, I love that you had this idea of moving the planes around with crew in the background. That was really fun. Liebo, I love that you put all of these quotes into song titles. I love those. I thought those were great. The blenders with the rhythm was probably my favorite part about that. Ben, I loved how you created your own song titles and each one had kind of their own meaning. It had kind of a spelling bee vibe to it with each person had their own song. And so that's kind of close to my heart since the 3 of us did that musical together. And I think what really sways this the most in Ben's favor is that the way that the scenes didn't really change due to the restrictions of the stage, like that I liked that you addressed that head on right from the beginning, and that kind of swayed it in your favor. So you're going to win this one. Although I almost gave it to Liebo. So Matt, I'm sorry, you lost this one. You got 0 points.
Boo.
What? Yeah, no, I know. And
they were all
honestly,
really good answers.
They were really good answers. But for me, Matt, it was the fact that you had Great Balls of Fire as like one of your karaoke songs. I was like, I wish it was a little bit more creative than that. Like it was fun for sure. But like if you had given me anything else instead of just like, and also with original music interspersed in, that's where you lost me.
It seems like you turned Top Gun into a stage play and not focused upon the musical aspect of it.
Well, I mean, it's a jukebox musical is how I read it. It's like Rock of Ages or Mamma Mia, where it's songs that already exist that are just being sung by these characters. Yeah,
that's kind of how I saw it. And it hurts that you hadn't seen it, but I totally understand those criticisms.
So now I'm going to go back to question 1, because this was my favorite question. I loved this one so much. I wrote it. Liebo, what the hell? This was so incredible, and I'm glad that you gave me a little bit about how this Christopher Walken playing every role was new life to each character, and that's why he was new. However, that wasn't strong enough to give you 1 or 2 points. I'm going to have you do 0 because I felt that Matt and Ben's answers of creating this new character was better, personally. Even though I thought it really was great. It was so funny.
I would definitely see that one-man show. There's no doubt about that.
I would 100% pay all of my money to see Christopher Walken do a one-man show of Fiddler.
Yeah,
it was so great.
I really liked the his pacing being the reason why it makes it fresh.
Yes.
Like
Yeah.
thinking about
Yes.
Fiddler on the Roof, all done with Christopher Walken pacing. Like that's
And all the voices you gave
Yeah.
us too. I'm like, man, if it's that one piece, I'm like, oh, he just wasn't quite new enough. And Matt's and Ben's were just a little bit better too. Matt, this surprised the hell out of me. But the fact that you picked Christopher Walken as God and created this brand new character, and you focus on him being a really great father in movies, and that he was going to be an amazing dancer, and him dressed as God flying around, that was great. Ben, I love that you gave me specific moments of him integrating himself into this musical with the internet for porn. It was great. And the tap dancing around race. Where you lost me, though, was the method acting. Honestly, it was the one piece I'm like, oh, okay, I could take it or leave it. And so that's why it pushed Matt's over to win 2-1 for that one. Question 2. Again, I loved all three of these, how you all added a bunch of 60s lingo. And I'm just going to tell you the scores. Matt, you won this one. Ben, you got 1. And Liebo, I'm sorry, you got 0.
What?
Here's why.
Liebo's face. Did it freeze?
His face froze in shock. Matt, you really focused on why they were writing. You're like, I'm your biggest fan. I would really enjoy your company. You would get me a lot more business.
He would really enjoy Brad's company.
It was a very specific voice. Yes, it was 1960s. You added in the comic book, and that's why you won that one. Ben and Liebo, I really liked yours. Liebo, if you had put it more into like the Ben voice, or even digs at him, I think I could have seen this more as like on the same level of the way that Ben was attacking you. I'm sorry to say that.
That's how he talks.
Tops chick.
No, but honestly, I felt that he did a really good job of, adding little bits of your personality into it, and also still keeping the 60s vibe. It's just that Matt's won it over just a little bit. So for the first time ever, we actually have a tie. Ben and Matt tied 4-4 with Liebo with 1 point. And so here is my offer as the high and mighty judge of all of you, with Wesley's help. I think it would be great so we don't make Liebo do a punishment by himself, because he's our guest. We love him.
Mhm.
I think Ben, Matt, and Liebo should all do a roll call video dressed up in different characters, and you guys can mash it together to make one video.
I do agree that a tie is not a win, so this remains Matt unable to win. So
If I only knew the term jukebox musical, I might have had a chance.
Yeah.
This is Matt's first not loss, right?
Yeah.
Correct.
Well, I mean, a tie's not a win. He lost.
Alcohol, baby.
Yeah, that's some good grenadine.
So no winners this week.
I've always been the
All
people's
losers.
choice. If you ask our listeners, they're always very happy.
There is no evidence for that. We have no
okay,
evidence.
I'm going to stop you right there then, Matt. Listeners, Matt just said that your voice says that he's the people's choice. I haven't seen that. So go ahead and reach out to us and let us know if that's the case.
Just let it stand. Let this unclaimed, substantiated thing stand.
Wow, I'm really impressed by the word choice that you're using.
It's
super
because
drunk.
I'm using Kettle
Since
One.
you couldn't even say
It's not
chagrin.
low shelf shit. It's top shelf. You guys, thank you for listening, and be sure to, if you haven't yet, share us with anybody that likes movies, that likes podcasts, and we appreciate your support. Thank you, Liebo, for coming on. You are so wonderful, and I liked all of the information you brought to Hairspray. Like, I learned so much, and I think the thing that's going to stick with me forever is when whoopee cushions were invented. But thank you so much.
Thanks. It was a lot of fun being on this, and I really appreciated just jabbing and jarring with you guys.
Next week, we will be seeing the debate happen between Ben and Dylan in the slasher horror Saw.
Saw 4.
It is definitely not a slasher. It is very much just torture horror.
Torture horror.
And I will be stepping out for this one because I cannot handle that shit. And also I'm going to Colorado, so
So yeah, thank you for listening, everybody, and that's been the show.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Goodbye.
Wow, Wesley.